So we're going to talk about the Aries full moon. We're going to talk about, and I have my notes today. I've got it together today. I've got a lot of things organized. Okay, so Saturn goes direct on Tuesday. Saturn has been retrograde since May 11th. So that's a long time. And Saturn is really the energy that is building structures in our lives, that is helping us create sustainable practices, sustainable foundations. And when it's retrograde, our efforts get, slow down a bit. But we do spend a little bit more investment of time in the details and not as much of moving forward with those plans and those efforts. As Saturn moves direct on Tuesday, we will feel things begin to move in a more forward direction in some ways. I say that because we have Mars squaring Saturn. So in some ways, we have Saturn moving direct and we have Mars moving backwards, and those two are going to hit each other, and they're going to be exactly square just as Saturn moves direct. So what that means is pressure. That can mean tension. That can mean a lot of buildup of energy to do something, to get things done, and a frustrated attempt to move forward. So on the one hand, Saturn will move past Mars, okay? It will eventually leave that square, but it's going to be very present this week. I'm just looking to see when it sort of drifts away. So yeah, I would say the further we get into the week, the weakening of the intensity of that square aspect. But what does that mean for you? Tuesday's not the best day to try and get anything done. Tuesday is not the best day to have any kind of meetings, to try and negotiate things. You're going to see folks much more stubborn, much more in their Mars and Aries vibe of, having a very headstrong sort of stance on things. Then we move into Wednesday, which is, the moon shifts into Aries. That's really the only thing we have going on Wednesday. But then Thursday, we have that Aries full moon. And the Aries full moon is somewhat volatile, I will say. Aries is a fire sign. Aries is ruled by Mars in Aries. And I should just say, if you hear my dogs, they are wound up. I don't know what's going on with them, but I may have to plug in my headphones so you don't get bombarded with their cacophonous barking. I just hear him woofing over here, so it's just one of my warning sign. So back to the full moon in Aries, it's a fire sign. It is ruled by that retrograde Mars, okay? So right off the bat, we know that the intensity of the Mars energy is cranked up, way up. So Mars energy is fiery, it is aggressive, it is, wanting its own way. It needs ground to plow, it needs fires to set. It's a little bit, combustible when it's retrograde, especially. When it's squaring Saturn, it's even angrier because it's not getting its way already. So that's why I say this full moon in Aries is a bit loaded. And so we just want to not overload ourselves. This is kind of like, there's so much insane astrology this fall that I'm having more of a challenge with clients to say, so like, where is the silver lining and what do we do about it? Okay, so there's all this scary stuff in the, energetic field. What do we do about it? Well, here's one suggestion. You don't overload yourself. You don't plan too many things because that just increases the possibility of tension. So in any way that you can eliminate tension in the common sense ways, you don't overbook yourself. You don't push yourself too hard energetically. You take good care of all of your systems. You get enough sleep, you get enough to eat, you get enough time alone, you get enough time. I mean, if you're quarantining alone, that's probably not a problem. But if you are if you are spending too much time alone, you get out, you get some fresh air, and stay in contact with each other. So it's just a lot of common sense of what do we do when things get really intense and really stressful. We absolutely have to go to the most healthy coping techniques. Okay, so that's kind of what I would say around the moon, the full moon. By Friday, we have Venus shifting into Virgo. And I should say we do have a really lovely thing on Monday. So Monday is not going to be your typical difficult Monday. You may have a hard time waking up because the moon is in Pisces. But Venus is trine Mars on Monday. So that's nice. That means relationships flow a little better. That means that we are just feeling a little bit more compatible, feeling a little bit more friendly. Okay, so back to Friday, when Venus leaves Leo and goes into Virgo, that's a very sensible shift of the Venus energy. So we may focus on more practical matters in Venus-ruled areas like relationships and money. We're more apt to not be spending extravagantly like we would have been in Venus and Leo. We will be more sensible about our budgets, more sensible about, we're moving into that cleaning house time frame because Mercury is going to station retrograde in 2 weeks. I am actually waiting for that because that's when I'm going to clean out all my closets. But Venus and Virgo will be good for that too. Venus is the way that we, are aesthetic, right? So Venus and Virgo on Friday, you might look around and be like, yeah, I cannot take the clutter anymore. I'm going to clear some stuff out. And then on Sunday, we have Pluto stationing direct. So this week is interesting because we have 2 major planets in the sky that have been retrograde since April, May, turning direct. So the things that have been culturally, because these planets are further away, astrologers consider them more cultural shifts. So we can expect some shifts happening in the culture that sort of stagnated, or the wheels were just kind of spinning and nothing was happening. Things will start to move forward now around issues of, I hate to say this, but I'm not the only astrologer who feels this way. I do believe there's going to be some spikes in the COVID cases as we move into October, and that Saturn, Pluto, those 2 come closer together. But that's for another time. We're going to talk about just the Aries full moon, and we're going to focus on today because there's just so much shit going on in the sky. Okay, so I'm gonna blast through these. So hold on to your hats, folks. I'm going to be going quickly today. All right, so I need to share my screen and do this thing on my thing. So if you're just joining, if this is your first time, I do this every Sunday, and I post this on YouTube later with clickable timestamps so that you don't have to sit through everybody's horoscope. You can click straight to yours. And I do recommend that you listen for your, and I'm just noticing I screwed up here, so that you listen for your, rising sign. Listen for your rising sign if you know it. Otherwise, just listen for your sun sign and you will be good to go. All right, Aries and Aries rising. This full moon is all about you, and it really is combustible. So I want you to pace yourself, Aries. One of the things about Mars in your sign for 6 months, okay, we had Mars move into Aries back in late June. It's going to be there until January, I think 6th, 7th. You are really driven right now. You are really motivated and really, wanting to push that ball forward. And yet, Mars is squaring Saturn in the career area. So it's harder for you, hey Sheena, it's harder for you to get that ball moving forward, and yet you are just still pushing. You're still pushing and still pushing, and you're kind of hitting a brick wall. So I would say, take a step backwards, Aries and rising, and even Aries moon. And take all that energy and put it into your workouts. Let's just say that for this week, do extra workouts, do extra physical activity, do things that make you sweat. That will help channel the frustration. And I'm now choking on my incense again. Oh my God, this stuff is so powerful. So it's good. It's good. It makes me feel spiritual, and it's choking me out. Okay, so that's the Mars square Saturn thing that I want you to try to manage with activity. The full moon, it's a moment of culmination. It's a moment of spotlight on you, Aries. However, you may be feeling somewhat insecure around this full moon, not only because of Mars retrograde, not only because Mars is square Saturn, but because Mars is conjunct Chiron in the first house. This is a moment where you're feeling like you're really vulnerable and your insecurities are on display. It's a passing influence. Okay, and now I feel like I'm setting fire to the whole house. Hold on a second. Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, so that's the Mars burning energy. It's like making my incense even more intense. What else do I want to say? Mercury moving into Scorpio. We didn't really even touch on that in the beginning, and it's moving into your 8th house. That could be a focus on intimacy, focus on issues that have to do with joint resources, a focus on, yeah, your budget could be, you know, coming into focus, because we're going to have Mercury opposite Uranus. I don't think that happens until next on the 7th, but Mercury opposite Uranus is really asking you to, confronting you with any sort of financial issues that you need to focus on, money you earn versus money you owe, money you earn versus the money your partner earns. So that's kind of like a balance. And Venus leaving that fire sign that you're so compatible with. So Monday is actually a good day for you, Aries, Aries rising, to, how should I put this? Get romantic. It moves into the 6th house, so your focus may go into your routines, into your health and well-being. That's another good sign. Just focus on the workouts. Put it all into the workouts this week. Okay, I'm blasting through. Like I said, it's too beautiful outside. I'm going to have to just go straight to Taurus and Taurus rising. Okay, Taurus, Venus is your ruler, and that's moving into a new sign. So if you're just joining, I'm seeing some folks showing up here that I don't recognize, which I love. And if you're just joining, I post this on YouTube every, usually by the evening on Sundays, and I put clickable timestamps, and I try to put those on my Instagram too, so you can skip over the signs that have nothing to do with you and go straight to your sign by clicking that clickable timestamp or just fast forwarding. So now I'm on Taurus and Taurus rising, and the fact that the ruler of Taurus is shifting into a new sign that's much more compatible with Taurus. So Taurus, you may start to feel a little bit more like yourself, a little bit more like celebrating, a little bit less maybe anxious and frustrated with the situation at home, and maybe more inclined to get out and have a little fun. I don't know what that looks like in the quarantine era, you know, get out and have fun. I really don't, but I know if someone is going to figure that out, it's going to be Taurus and Taurus rising. So the Aries full moon for you, Taurus, is happening in that 12th house. So while Venus is saying, hey, let's celebrate, the full moon is saying, oh, I don't know if I feel like it. I'm not really 100% feeling healthy. I'm not feeling 100% myself. I feel a little bit frustrated with maybe my energy levels are not what they should be. Because, you know, that moon for you, Taurus, is happening in the 12th house. You know, it may be that you feel a little bit better next week. This week is more about kind of recovering your mojo, finding that, that celebratory nature, that sensual nature. Because Mars is squaring off with these very in these very more spiritual houses. So Mars squares Saturn in the 9th, and the moon is in this 12th house with Chiron. So there's a part of you that may just be focusing on your spirituality, focusing on your prayer practice, your meditation practice. Maybe you're recovering from an injury. I could see that being the case. Recovering from some sort of debilitating treatment. And the recovery itself is requiring you to go inside, to be a little bit more introspective, rather than pushing everything outward. And I do think that as we move into the week of the 5th, so you've got a little bit of time before this, you will start to feel a little bit better. Mercury has moved into your 7th house. It's opposing your sun or your rising sign. Mercury in the 7th is a lot of discussions with partners, a lot of communication with your spouse, your life partner, your agents, your support staff. I mean, the 7th house is really, you know, lawyers, agents, and spouses and business partners. So the communication could increase in that way. But I would say Taurus and Taurus rising, you know what? Take it easy this week. Don't push yourself. There's no need. You will get plenty done, but you definitely want to manage any health issues that might be coming up and just give yourself a little extra TLC. Okay, blasting through, going to Gemini. I'm going to see if I can set a record for how fast and effective I can do this week. Gemini and Gemini rising. Okay, Linz, this is you. So, hold on. I'm choking because there's a small incense fire on my table. Aries, and the Aries moon for you, Gemini, is happening in that 11th house. That is about friendships. It's about your goals. It's about your tribe, where you belong. It's about your activism. You might get fired up to rally your friends. You might get fired up to change some of your goals or revisit some goals that you set way back in June when Mars first entered Aries. You may feel frustrated that some financial goals that you set, Mars is squaring off with that stellium in the 8th, are not moving fast enough. Gemini, it seems like nothing ever really moves fast enough for Gemini because they are like, you know, constantly doing this. So, you know, again, take a breath, Gemini, and use this time to analyze rather than move forward with anything. Just, you're good at the analytics, you know. Mercury, your ruling sign, your ruling planet, moved into the 6th house. So like, take this time to sort of look at your routines, look at what you've accomplished thus far. You know, the full moon generally is a culmination of what we've been working on since we had the Aries new moon way back in late March. So let's look at what have you done since the end of March? Probably a lot, knowing Gemini. So just take a breath and acknowledge that. I'm going to have one of these. And, you know, spend more time. I think, you know, this is something I'm talking with my clients about. We want to really just spend this time looking at our plans for what we're going to launch in December and beyond. So you want to refine whatever it is you're doing now. You want to reassess your plans. You know, I know it's very hard to even have plans right now because we don't really know what's coming, but we never do. You know, this year seems especially loaded with uncertainty, but the truth is we never really know. So you might as well just stay in the moment. And I know that's like nails on a chalkboard to Gemini, but really do try to bring yourself back down to earth and anchor yourself in the moment. Venus is moving into the 4th house for you, Gemini, and then I'm going to move quickly on to the next. But Venus moves into the 4th house, which allows you to spend more time at home and, you know, fluffing your nest, maybe preparing for fall, maybe having some social distance hangouts with friends. So yeah, you can turn the dial down to medium. Just kind of chill out through this one. And I know that's going to be a little challenging because this full moon is really lighting you up in some ways. The air and fire love each other. They just, you know, fire needs air to be alive. So, but again, I point to that Mars square Saturn. You could get yourself in a little bit of a jam if you push too hard. That's true for all of us. Okay, I'm going to move on to Cancer and Cancer rising. And Cancer, these full moons always mean a little bit more to you than the average bear, if you know that thing, if you're old like me. This full moon is in the 10th house for you, Cancer and Cancer rising. And this is putting a spotlight on your achievements, putting a spotlight on your relationship with a boss or a dominant parent, putting a spotlight on your reputation. And this may feel somewhat uncomfortable. And here's why. That moon is conjunct. It's a wide conjunction, but it still counts. It's very close to Chiron. Chiron is a dwarf planet. It depends on who you ask as an astrologer what Chiron really is. Some say it's a dwarf planet. Some say it's an asteroid or a meteor. I heard that recently. Whatever the case, Chiron represents where we're vulnerable, represents where we're wounded. It represents where we are especially sensitive. And with it at that top of the place, the top of your chart, Cancer, you may be feeling especially sort of vulnerable professionally. Mars is squaring from that 10th house into that partnership sector. This is not the greatest time to try to make headway in negotiations with a partner, with, if you're a lawyer, you know, with someone that you're trying to negotiate a settlement. You could very easily reach some sort of a stalemate, but know that that's not the way it's going to stay. That's just this week is especially challenging. Mercury has moved into the 5th house for you, which allows you to be maybe more expressive about your needs, your creative drive, your romantic intentions, all these 5th house things. If you're a parent, it improves your communications with a child, particularly your oldest child. What else do I want to say? And Venus moving into a nice alignment with your sign into Virgo on the 3rd, that also improves your relationships with your siblings, neighbors, with your community. It also improves your brand online. So you may want to just pivot your attention from that stalemate that you are having with a partner and move that into other areas of life, with, say, with a child, with a creative project, with your social media, with a sibling. Those are the areas that are much more likely to do well this week. Okay, I'm going to move on to Leo and Leo rising, and I'm blasting through these. It's interesting because it's kind of like an Aries vibe that this whole weekly astro is having today. Okay, Leo and Leo rising. You have had Venus in that place of great hair and lots of shopping for the last 3 weeks, since September 5th. And now you have to pass the baton to Virgo. So we're all telling you how great you look, Leo and Leo rising, but it's time to pass the Venus energy on to another sign. And that actually is good for you because it means you may be making some more money, not spending it quite so much. Venus is in the 2nd house starting on Friday the 2nd. So that really helps you feel more confident about your earning capacity. It helps you feel more confident in general. Now, the sun is your ruler, and we're about to have a full moon. When the full moon happens, it means that the moon is opposite the sun. So you may be feeling some tension emotionally around your ideas. This is happening from the 3rd and the 9th house. There may be some frustration that an idea that you had isn't moving as quickly as you would like it to. Maybe your routines have slowed you down. Your day-to-day responsibilities may have slowed you down in moving forward with this big idea that you have. Here's the thing, Leo, slower is better this year. Slower is better for a lot of reasons, mainly, sorry, I'm choking out again. Mainly because Saturn in Capricorn with Pluto in Capricorn and Jupiter in Capricorn in the house of routines, in a house of your health and well-being, are saying, look, we've got to figure out a sustainable way to do these things that you want to do, to take on these big projects. It is not practical, and practical is a huge Capricorn word, to do things to flame out, right? So yeah, you can, you know, burn your light super brightly, which Leo loves to do, and so does Aries and Sag, but you will flame out if you don't have a sustainable system, a sustainable routine, a foundation that will hold all of that energy. And so that's why this year I'm advising all of my clients to use this fall as a marathon, not a sprint. This has been the energy of 2020, but especially this fall. Okay. So we talked about the full moon in the 9th house. It is a moment of culmination for some ideas, particularly some healing ideas, maybe some offerings that you've been working on. But I would say, you know, let's not launch anything brand new. Let's work on the things we've already launched and just refine them, okay? Mercury moves into the 4th house, Leo, and then I have to move on. And that means your focus maybe becomes on busy things in the home, managing communications with families. Maybe you need to re-engage with some family members that you haven't been in touch with. And that's it. I'm going to move on now to Virgo and Virgo rising. And I do want to say, if you are new to my lives on Sunday, I do it every Sunday, same time. And then I post it on YouTube with clickable timestamps. So you're able to go straight to your sign and not have to sit through everybody else's horoscope. I suggest you listen for your rising sign and your sun sign. They both are pretty relevant. And what else do I want to say? That's it. Okay, Virgo. So this is a significant week simply because your ruling planet, Mercury, has moved into a new sign. And it actually moved into the communication area of your life. So you're more apt to reach out to your community, and maybe actually a lot more busy than even some of the other signs. You may be doing more running around with Mercury in the 3rd house, running errands and just, you know, kind of busy doing regular kinds of activities. What else do I want to say about that? Venus is moving into your sign. So that's sort of the headline for Virgo. On Friday, Venus shifts from that 12th house of recovery and renewal and respite and retreat, and puts you sort of in the front and center, looking very lovely, looking very healthy, shining out that supportive, helpful, grounded, healing vibe that Virgos are so apt to have. That Venus energy moves into that 1st house on Friday, and it gives you this it kind of invites people into your org. It kind of brings more people to socialize, more people complimenting you, more reasons to love yourself. It's very nice. It's a very nice vibe. It only lasts for about 3 weeks, but live it up while you can. The full moon in Aries is in your 8th house. Okay, so, and that Mars energy in the 8th house with the Aries full moon is also squaring Saturn. This might have to do with an issue with a child, an issue with a new romantic partner, or a frustrating creative endeavor. This could be that you have been working on something creative for a long time and you feel like you've reached a blockage point. You feel like you haven't been able to move forward on it. This is very temporary, but yeah, I would use that to refine whatever it is that you're working on, to edit and refine it rather than, you know, just hit your head against a wall trying to move forward on something. And if that doesn't work, I would just get out of the house and move around, move your body, because that Mars energy will get stuck in frustration and creative blockages. And if you can move it through your body, you're more apt to have access to it to move that creative project forward once Mars leaves that intense square with Saturn. But the full moon on Thursday is putting a spotlight on maybe some old wounding, some old traumas, or it's really asking you to look at your money that you owe and money that you inherit and money that you receive from the government, money that you've invested with a partner, This is money you did not earn, but money that comes to you anyway. With that full moon there, it could be a focus becomes hard to not notice. So maybe you are looking at your investments and looking at your business partnerships and the money that you have tied up with a business partnership, and you're really kind of wondering what to do with it, how you should manage it. It just becomes more of a focus. What else do I want to say about that? I think that's it for now. I mean, the financial picture, I have to say, in the next 6 weeks, if we're just looking at a global kind of picture, looks very volatile. So whatever that means to you in terms of investments, Virgo, it's a good time to meet with your financial planner or your CPA and kind of gauge what you want to do with your money. Make sure that it is where you feel most comfortable and not vulnerable. Okay, moving on. And again, if you missed your sign, I'm going to post this later today on YouTube, and I'm also going to post it on Instagram once it's on YouTube, so that you can skip ahead straight to your sign. Libra and Libra rising. Okay, Venus changes signs. That's news for Libra. That means that your focus moves from the 11th house of friends and goals and where do I belong to the area of retreat and concentration and meditation and leave me alone for a while. I need to recover. Libras have been having a very intense time. I had several Libra clients this week that are really facing, you know, some serious decisions. And unfortunately, because of Mars in that 7th house, squaring all that stuff in the 4th house, there is a feeling of a rock and a hard place kind of decision. And I think that's somewhat true with Mercury making a weird angle to this full moon. We all could be facing somewhat of a rock and a hard place decision in whatever area of life this full moon lands. And for Libra, it is, you know, directly opposite either your sun or rising sign. So you're really confronted with, where am I supposed to be going? How do I assert myself? What is my partner doing? How do I support them? You know, and what kind of changes need to be made in where we live, what our family is doing, how our foundation of our life looks. There are a lot of really foundational problems coming up for Libra and Libra rising. And so it is a time where you want to take a pause, use that Venus in the 12th house. It doesn't move there until Friday, but use that Venus to sort of calm yourself down. Mercury is moving into the 2nd house. So you've been exerting a lot of brain power, a lot of effort in the last 3 weeks to solving some kind of very important problem. With Mercury moving into the 2nd, that thought pattern, that problem solving now moves into the financial area. So not only do you have to manage some problem that's going on at home, whether you're renovating, whether you're moving, whether you have a family member who's dealing with something very serious, the focus of your perspective now moves into the area of, how do I pay for it? How do we manage our finances? Libra, maybe you should give me a call. I say that because I think it is hard on a normal day for Libra to take very decisive action. With all of these problems coalescing at the same time for Libras, it becomes even tougher. I do want you to hear one thing, Libra, and that is, you've got to take care of yourself, or you won't be able to be healthy enough to take care of any of these problems. And it's not all up to you. That's the other piece of this. Your partner is really going to be making a lot of decisions as well. So you do what you can, and then you have to let go. The other thing is, holding things lightly in 2020 is advice. It's good for any situation in general, but 2020 is a year where we absolutely have to sort of hold our lives lightly. Yeah, I hear you, Stephanie. And not be in that grasping mode. So the whole Buddhist mindset is really, I think, in a lot of ways, the most effective mindset this year. one of the things I do want to say about this full moon and the benefits, okay, of Mars square Saturn, even though it's, and here they go, here they go, here they go. Hold on, hold on. Okay. So, sorry about that. What I want to say is the benefits of Mars square Saturn are that we are more committed, right? We're more committed to working hard for something that we really believe in. We're more very focused on achieving something that is actually very hard to achieve. So the things that Saturn and Mars give us in this time are stamina and motivation and drive. It's just that we have to deal with the frustration that is part of that as well. But yeah, okay. So I'm going to move on to Scorpio and Scorpio rising. And as you know, I do like Scorpios, but I like all the signs equally. Scorpios I have a special place in my heart for because I know a lot of them personally. If you missed your sign, know that I'm going to post this later on YouTube. I'm going to post a link in my Instagram to that YouTube. And I'm going to post it with clickable timestamps so you can go straight to your sign. You don't have to listen to everybody else's sign. Okay, the big news this week is that Mercury moves into your sign, Scorpio. It moves into that first house. In addition to your ruler, Mars, squaring with Saturn, this is a slowdown time. Libra, the sun has just moved in, about a week ago into your 12th house. You may be feeling more contemplative. You may be feeling more like taking a break. You may be feeling more frustrated and stuck in your routines. So why not take a break, right? You have been working very hard, Scorpio, and I do want to validate that. Mars has been in that 6th house since the end of June, pushing you to get things done. And so now it is okay if you want to take a pause and step back and get some perspective. The good thing about having Mercury in that first house is that your state of mind, your perspective, your ability to articulate that perspective becomes much sharper and much more honed and much more front of the personality. Okay, so you're maybe more inclined to communicate in the next for quite some time. Now, Mercury, keep in mind, is slowing way, way down in that first house because we're going to have a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Scorpio starting on October 13th. So Mercury is not as effective as it might be on a normal situation. So it does make you, again, it sort of turns that perspective inward. It turns that perspective on how am I effective? Am I effective? What do I need to change to be effective? What do I need to change to get my point across? Is anybody listening? Does anybody see or hear me? Those are questions you may be asking yourself. And the truth is, yes, people have seen you. You had Venus in that 10th house for quite a while, 3 weeks. You've just finished a cycle of getting some recognition. And now it may be time to sort of refine what you launched, refine what you've been working on, fine tune it so that when we get into late November into December and into next year, you have sort of perfected it to the point where it's ready to relaunch in a way that's, slightly newer, slightly improved. But, Mars is your ruling planet. It's going to be in the same place for a long time until the 1st of January. So you want to pace yourself, Scorpio. You really need to pace yourself and take a break if you need it to get healthy, because that energy to move things forward, that energy to get things done, that energy to be busy and to be productive is very frustrated right now. And it's going to be frustrated probably for the rest of October. So rather than bang your head against the wall, it would be better to turn it inward, look at your processes, refine your routines, exercise. So Mars retrograde for a Mars ruled chart like Scorpio's is best used in the physical, moving that energy out, pushing out the frustration in physical exercise, and keeping that sort of flow of chi, keeping that energy moving through the body so it does not get stuck, okay? It's also going to mean, Scorpio, being more communicative than you normally are. You need to be having conversations with either a partner, a counselor, but you need to be having conversations. You don't want to hold all of this in. I know Scorpios generally are not super revealing. They like to hold it pretty close to the chest, but this is not a time for that. This is a time to exchange information, ideas, and get support. Okay? So we're moving on to Sag, and I am going to be doing this before an hour, I think. I'm going to finish in earlier than an hour today. When do things move forward? Hey, Claire. So Mars retrograde ends November 13th. Mercury retrograde ends. Mercury retrograde starts October 14th and ends November 2nd. What that means for Scorpios is that October and early November are going to be times of reassessment, refining, editing, recovering. And then once we get into, I want to say November 19th and beyond, that's when things start to move forward. That's when things start to feel like you have more control. Okay? I hope that's helpful. And just so that those of you who are new to the call, just want to remind you that I am going to post this on YouTube with clickable timestamps, so you can skip everybody else's horoscope and go straight to yours. So Sag and Sag rising, this full moon is in a nice alignment to your Sagittarius fire. There may be a romance brewing. There may be a creative project firing you up, and maybe even making you feel a little bit naked in the spotlight, creatively speaking, because of that alignment with Chiron. Mars is squaring from that 5th house to the 2nd. Finances and making that creative project make money could be a frustrating enterprise at the moment. However, Pluto and Saturn in that 2nd house are moving forward. You know, next week it'll be more evident, meaning the week of the 5th. But what that means is what financial issues could start to improve in the first week of October. And this full moon, you know, although it is kind of frustrating, it is burning really hot in terms of any kind of romance that that's been percolating. So you could see something happen around a romantic dating type relationship. I think, let me think, I'm sorry, the smoke of the incense is lodged in my throat now. The other thing I want to mention, Sag, is that Mercury has left that social 11th house, that place of being with your friends, wanting to be very social. It's moved into a very private place in your chart. And so you may find that you're needing to spend more time alone, needing more time in meditation, more time in your spiritual practice for the next good little while, because that Mercury is going to be there until the 1st of December. So that's a time for you to kind of maybe slow your roll just a little bit, take a break, revisit your yoga practice, meditation practice. Venus is moving into the 10th house. That's really good for your reputation. It's really good for a relationship with a parent or a boss, an authority figure. It is going to be squaring off with your ascendant, which could mean there's decision making that needs to be made. Maybe there are some offers that are forthcoming professionally that you have to consider. It's positive. It's making a nice aspect to your income sector. So it could be that you get some kind of new opportunity that brings in more money. Okay, I think that's enough for Sag. I'm going to move on to Aquarius and Aquarius rising. And if any of you are just joining, I'm going to post this later on YouTube and on Instagram. Wait a minute, Capricorn. Do this every week. And you can click straight to your sign. Okay, Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys, this is about your home and family and your house, where you physically live. This full moon is lighting that area up and squaring that Capricorn stellium in the first. You may feel stuck. You may feel stuck in a situation at home. Who doesn't feel stuck right now? How do I want to advise you on this? The good news, I'm always looking for the silver lining. The good news is Saturn is moving direct, Capricorn. Saturn is in charge of your life. It's in charge of your chart. And Saturn has been retrograde since the middle of May. You will definitely feel more of an inclination to move some plans forward that you've been working on since that time. But you may hit some resistance as that Mars-Saturn square is still in effect. The more we move into the month, that Saturn square, that Mars-Saturn square does get some space around it. But for the next week or two, it is going to be somewhat frustrating. Now, the good news, I think, is that you get more clarity. And here's why. Mercury is now in a nice alignment to Saturn and all of that Capricorn. Your perspective is not as stuck, frustrated, feeling like it's, you know, in a holding pattern. Your mind, at least, is able to see beyond this moment of stuckness. And I think there's a way for Capricorn to reach out to friends, to reach out to your community, to begin to look at the horizon beyond this frustrating time and set some goals. Mercury in the 11th house is very helpful for that. And it will be there until the beginning of December. So use that Mercury in the 11th house to revisit your goals in this time that you can't really do anything anyway because you're stuck with the Mars square Saturn for the next 10 days or so. The full moon does bring your attention to an issue at home, an issue around family, maybe a parent, maybe a relative. Maybe it is just bringing to mind your habitual vulnerabilities that were rooted in something that happened in childhood. It could be an old wound, an old childhood wound that is really being called forward for some healing. So that's how I would use this full moon, is to sort of be contemplative around, you know, just listen to yourself and give yourself, you know, Capricorns are not great about giving themselves TLC, to giving themselves tenderness, but this full moon really asks for that. So I would encourage you to be tender with yourself. What else do I want to say about that? Venus moving into the 9th house for you is going to feel better because that Venus is also contributing to this Mercury shift of let's get some perspective. Let's look at our ideas. Let's come up with some new plans. Let's really tap into our big ideas. How do we want to shift our lives in a paradigm sort of way to be more in line with what we need and what feels authentic and what feels stable and grounded? Okay, moving on to Aquarius, and then I'm going to be done. I'm moving very quickly. This is not like last week. Okay, Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So your ancient ruler, Aquarius, is Saturn. Uranus is still retrograde. That's your modern ruler. But we're going to talk about Saturn because, you know, Aquarius is experiencing this Capricorn stellium in a place that's very hard to reach. You may feel like you're a monk in a monastery sometimes, that you just want to be left alone to meditate. You just want to be left alone to solve all these enormous conundrums that are in your subconscious. You may even feel better when you are, you know, tuned into that higher place, that astral plane, that place of meditation and prayer. Saturn moving direct in that place may finally give you the permission to say, okay, I have spent quite a lot of time contemplating plans, contemplating my existence, contemplating my navel. And now it's time to really look at practical ways to apply what I have learned in this higher mind, in this spiritual place that I have been. It could be, Aquarius, that you're actually recovering from an illness, recovering from something that has kept you apart from your day-to-day routines as well. And this Mars square Saturn is saying you're not done recovering. You do need to still take very delicate care of yourself. But the full moon in that third house is saying, but you can start to tiptoe out and talk to the neighbors again, reach out to your community, talk to your siblings, focus on ways of speaking up and sharing some of this wisdom that you've gained from this time alone, or this time of recovery, or this time of illness, or this time of grief and loss. And we're all dealing with that on a collective level. Mercury is now in that 10th house for you, Aquarius. And so what you've learned, people want to know. Having Mercury in the 10th is kind of like having an antenna out. People notice that you have some knowledge. They notice that you've learned something you want to share, and they may come to you. You are attracting people to you who want what you've learned, want that spiritual guidance. Venus moving into the 8th house, this could be a very supportive moment for intimate relationships. You may find that you're able to be more available for intimacy, more available for one-on-one discussions and tender moments of communication. You know, Aquarius is not known for being especially, what do I want to say, emotional or mushy or sentimental, but with the Venus shift, that may be more accessible. It bodes well for your partner's income. And you may find that you get a tax return out of nowhere, or you get some supportive help from the government, get some funds that you didn't have to earn that come into the picture. Okay. Let's talk about Pisces, and then I am done and going outside. Pisces and Pisces rising. Again, if you're just joining and you haven't been on here, hey Lola, if you haven't been on here, I post this on YouTube, and I post it with clickable timestamps so you can skip over everybody else's horoscope and go straight to yours. Okay, Pisces, let's talk about the full moon in the 2nd house. Financial issues. Issues of self-worth are very much highlighted for you. Jupiter is your ruling planet. Jupiter has recently turned direct, just in the last few days. Let's see. Yeah, well, September 13th, so not that recent. But, you know, it helps. It helps that Jupiter is moving forward for you in that house of friendship, in the house of goals and long-term planning. You are maybe feeling like, okay, I am getting my arms around my goals and direction in life. However, there is some financial sticking point because Mars is squaring Saturn. So you've got this goal, right? Saturn is going to move direct on, when did I say that? Tuesday. It may be that you've got everything lined up, but there's something else that is standing in the way. This full moon could actually bring clarity to what it is that is the problem that's standing in your way of making this new plan a financially viable plan. Venus is now moving into the 7th house for you, Pisces, which means that your relationships get more of a focus. Maybe you're feeling more social. Maybe you're feeling more intimate with a partner. Maybe you're feeling like, you know, extra open to intimacy and relationship and those heart-to-heart talks. Mercury is moving into the 9th house in a nice alignment with Pisces and Pisces rising. And so that gives you, gosh, in the 9th house, perspective, clarity, clarity is very hard to come by for Pisces because Neptune has just created this whole fog that you have to work through to get to what the picture really is. Mercury is going to help you with that. Mercury is going to create some clarity around that. Now, it does require you to be in somewhat of a meditative state to get the clarity because Neptune, because Mercury is going to go retrograde. But if you quiet your mind, if you create space to retreat, renew, replenish, you will be able to access that higher mind. And you will be able to get information from that divine self more easily, especially when we move into next week and that Mercury is opposite Uranus. That's kind of like lightning strikes of brilliance and breakthrough. But I'll talk about that more next week. So the full moon, I really want you to be tender with yourself, Pisces, because that's a vulnerable vibe there. It could bring up some insecurities. Know that it's just a moment to look at, observe, give love to those tender spots, and continue to move forward on your plans. It's not about that your plans aren't viable. It's that you have to problem solve around them, okay? You want to keep moving. You may have to take a pause. You may have to do some problem solving. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with the plan inherently, okay? All right, I hope that's helpful. If you need support, I am offering my Align and Thrive at the super reduced rate, okay, only until October 9th. And I really mean it this time because I'm not going to accept any more folks on that because we're going to have Mars and Mercury retrograde. I don't want to start things in that time. So if you're really interested and you want $200 off this program and you need support through the fall, October 9th is your deadline. Otherwise, have a great week, everybody. Mwah.